Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
Today we're covering another list of things that should never happen. This time with the specifically 5th season of Miraculous Ladybug.
Now consider this a sequel to our Ben 10 issues list we did last year. We made this one because as much as we loved this series, it's sad to say that the writing quality has dropped dramatically. Now originally the show was making great improvements in seasons 2 and 3, only season 4 to start showing cracks, and then the creator sold the rights and his dignity and defended his actions to Disney in a George Lucas move. So now season 5 just had problem after problem after problem.
Yeah.
It's time to list all the major issues. But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and notifications on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
Absolutely. Now for those of you not familiar with Miraculous, the title has been changed to Miraculous Tales of Ladybug and Cat in War.
Yeah, make it extensive, I guess.
Created by Thomas Astruck and developed by Jeremy Zag. And as we mentioned, up through season 2, season 4, this is a fantastic series, getting better each time.
Right.
Each episode runs around 21 or 22 minutes. And we need to point out that up until 2021, when this series got its last award, it was getting nominated and winning awards in many categories for many different award shows. After Disney got it, it never even got nominated ever again.
Yep, that's right.
So why? We're going to let you know why now.
Alright, so first up is the change in animation, the character design, and they're more generic. Like the eye colors are different, it's less detailed, less bright. They look like they're not finished rendering on some places.
Why did they change studios? Well, our guess is Disney decided to probably do it with one of their own contracted studios.
Probably.
Or it's cheaper, or they did it in-house. Either way, the characters don't look the same. The first clue was when people began complaining about Adrian's eyes.
Yes.
And it was obvious they weren't the same green. I think they weren't even green in one shot.
Yeah, when he is the Cat Noir form, yeah.
And also, a lot of the other characters, there's not as much movement in their faces.
Yeah.
And Marionette lost the cuteness and adorableness that made her whom she was.
They really exaggerated her features when she get embarrassed or something. It went from being funny and anime-like to just being very weird to look at.
And last but not least, before she was amalgamum, like a cross between both her mom and her dad. Very cute. Well, Disney decided she needed to look more like her mom for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So they decided to leave the dad out of it altogether. Why change the concepts of the property that you bought because it was successful? Because they're Disney.
Yeah.
Number 2, the removal of Chloe's character growth. She got downgraded and she lost brain cells and she began not to have any ideas of her own.
Yeah.
Even letting Lyre, and I know her name was Lila.
We get the pun.
It's just, why? You were beginning to be happy that she was gonna be a better person.
Yeah.
She was learning from her mistakes. She was listening to Ladybug, and she really cared what Ladybug thought. And yes, her focus at first was on Adrikins.
Yeah.
Adrikins and
all that.
Trying to date him, but she really began to be more serious about being a superhero assist.
Yes. And one of the biggest parts of it, and people were surprised at, is when Hawkmoth tried to akumatize her the first time. And not only did she resist, she told him that she would never fall in league with him, and broke whatever that he was trying to take over so he couldn't use it against her. And people saw that as like really surprising that Chloe, of all characters that she'd been acting until that point, would refuse to be part of the villain's plan.
Right.
And as the show went on, she actually was getting better, trying to be friends with the girl she bossed around. She really did see her as a friend. Is that she acted crazy because you saw she was imitating her mother. So they were actually giving her depth throughout it, and she was improving, and they were hinting at she will become worthy of holding the Be Miraculous. Then it got to the latter seasons, and it's like, no, she'll never be a superhero now. She doesn't deserve it.
Season 5, she has no sense whatsoever. She's stupid. She's ignorant.
I'm sorry,
she's
it's true.
dumb. She's callous.
She became a villain for most
heartless,
episodes.
and she lets Lila, of all people, tell her what to do. Now, as you know, Chloe was the type of character where you didn't tell her, she told you. And again, she started changing because she cared what Ladybug thought. Well, no more. Thanks a lot, Disney.
Yep.
Number 3, removing characters like Luca for no reason.
Yeah, never explained. We didn't see anything happen to the voice actors. Been no controversy or anything. The character just was removed from the show, went to spend time with Dad, and that was it. He was just gone.
There also had been a change in voice actors using Disney people.
Yeah,
or Disney
more switching them out.
Voice actors for their own. And we were fearing that they were going to change everyone. Well, thank goodness they didn't do that. They just took them out.
Yeah, all together. And as the show went on in the 5th season, there were gigantic changes in these characters. And Luca leaving was one of the big ones because halfway through, he was gone and it was weird not seeing him again. Then, yes, characters like Felix and Kagame beginning to have bigger roles and then eventually leaving the show too. And as it went on, it's like, okay, how many characters are you going to remove from this roster?
Yeah. Number 4.
The ships that drag on for eternity before the last episode of the season, and they find the most ridiculous ways to drag it out to the point where people were just getting frustrated.
Now I'm going to read this quote because even the critics are getting tired of it. The show has also received negative criticism from both critics and fans of the show. Ryan Lewis of CBR.com portrays a negative view of the show's primary conflict between the two main protagonists. And I quote, "They know each other outside of crime fighting, but somehow never recognize each other's superhero identities. To the annoyance of many fans, this conflict is yet to be resolved, causing someone to lose interest in the show for its overly drawn-out romantic tension." And it wasn't even cute like an anime where they eventually get together.
Right.
Disney just decided they want to drag this on and just make ridiculous, convoluted scenarios that make no sense.
Yeah.
Making the show less interesting. Number 5, Marionette became too much of a klutz, and she was no longer endearing.
Yeah,
she was
lame.
a different type of stupid, like Chloe.
Yeah, and this was like with the ships thing being dragged on. They flanderized her being a klutz way too much. It was sort of just kind of silly, like, okay, she tripped over this. That's a bit ridiculous, but it was okay. You just kind of laughed it off. But then they kept dragging it on and on. She would get to regular show style accidents where it would cause a chain reaction. It's like, what are you tripping on? How are you causing all this by doing this? It just was no longer funny.
Yeah, it's just,
it's like,
it's no longer endearing. Season 5 is the worst season for Marionette as a person.
Yeah.
She became unlikable. She became totally the opposite of what she was, and somehow Disney thought this was a good development. Well, guess what? There was no development at all.
Right.
Number 6, forcing a ship between Felix and Kagome, and it didn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah. And at first people were really into the idea, but on paper it sounds like, hey, you kind of had a sort of alternate version before they had the other universe, multiverse thing mixed in there. And it maybe could have worked if they didn't just fold in the show all of a sudden when they did a Blood Moon Balls type episode knockoff, and then Kagame, looks like Marinette. Felix looks exactly like Adrian, and it's like, okay, they're with these people, they never want them, so they just end up with each other, and they're like knockoffs of their counterparts, and it's one of the weirdest things they've ever come up with.
It's like they took a fanfic maybe someone had written online and decided to apply it to the show. And we do know recently studios have been going online, getting ideas from people's writings and fanfics.
Yes.
And making movies and series out of them. So it's not hard to believe that this is what happened with Phyllis and Kagome. It was a very bad decision. It didn't work. And it just ruined any possibility that you would ever like out of these two characters.
Oh my gosh, right?
Number 7.
Destroying the miraculous box that held all of the Kwame. And that was in itself its own episode. Hawkmoth, or Monarch as he's called now this season, succeeds in getting almost all of the Kwame. He hasn't gotten laid by Cat Noirs yet, and he destroys the box. where their home is. He traps them on these little orbs, and he melts down all of the accessories they came in and turn them into rings that lets him be able to track anybody in Paris that wore them. Then the strangest part is that they actually made the rings real and took the episode and made the rings real, where it'd be little hologram helpful things and tracking you. The rings are real now, and it's even worse.
And here's the thing, Disney, and here we go, yeah, I'm going to wish.
No, here we go again.
Star Boy to be too powerful. They didn't want him to be overpowered. They wanted Asha to be able to solve things herself. But then they go here with Hawkmoth and make him the most powerful being in the universe.
It's like a Magnifico.
Say nobody take him down. No one could stop him. He had miraculous sisters.
Right.
It didn't make sense. It was too much. This is what happens when you make someone too powerful. Starboy would have been fine. You are now using this as an excuse to not make better movies, but you take this series and you destroy and ruin it by making him too powerful.
Yeah.
This is where you should have not done it.
Now too powerful for the main protagonist to fight unless they have multiple people.
And that leads us to number 8, the killing off of Hawkmoth or Gabriel Agress. Why the hell would you do that?
Why? And I know people were kind of, again, annoyed with this drawn-out arc with him trying to save the wife, who they just kind of made uninteresting now. But, yeah, at the end of the season, Hawkmoth actually wins and gets the wish that he wanted. I'm not kidding you. It happens, and he wins. He literally wins at the end of the season, and we're just all acting like, oh, it's so peaceful now, it's harmonious, and now the teacher's running Paris, and it's just
but he
Nirvana.
doesn't win because he dies.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, wait a minute, he won and he died, and we're supposed to be happy?
I don't think anyone wanted him to be gone. They wanted him to reform, and to show more love toward Adrian.
Like they were beginning to do in the other seasons.
Absolutely, but you know Disney, he was only having one parent. Now, he won't get into that one. He had only one parent, now he has no parents.
Yeah.
And now he's happier than ever.
What?
So what kind of message is this that the studio is trying to give us? I don't know, but no.
Yeah.
We're not happy about it. So number 9.
The villains stopped being frightening. And we know in the beginning they were cheesy to begin with. And yes, it was fun. You knew they were a threat, but they were like little toys from Happy Meals, and it was hilarious, and you loved how cheesy it was.
Especially in season 2, when a 5-year-old almost won.
Yes, a puppeteer.
Yeah.
And when it got to seasons 2 and 3, the villains actually started being more threatening. They were still goofy looking. They still had cheesy names and motives. But there were times when the villains were getting closer, like Dark Owl, the puppeteer, and Chloe's parents and other characters they had in here to be akumatized actually were becoming bigger threats. They actually were outsmarting the main protagonist. And at one point, one of them got to Miraculous, but they didn't get to Hawkmoth in time. So the villains were actually getting smarter and craftier. They even had an entire episode where they wiped their memories and didn't remember who they are to take the Miraculous from them, so they didn't even recall enough to fight back. So they were getting very creative. Then all of a sudden, all the villains were stupid. You had one called Banana Queen.
It began to be like some of the Pokemon in Sun and Moon when Disney had it. Rock, sand, clock. We need not say more. Number 10. Lila took over the series. Too much of her toward the end, plus the cliffhanger, so it'll still be too much of Lila in season 6.
And they're still going, and we're still getting these specials like Help Us All.
And in case you're wondering, season 5 ran from October 24th of 2022 to November 1st of 2023, but it seemed like forever, and it never would end.
Right.
Lila is the most dislikable character in this series. You can't stand her. She's irritating. She has no moral fiber.
No.
She has no qualities that can even be deemed while she is redeemable. She's not redeemable. And she was in every episode toward the end. And now the cliffhanger revolves around her having stolen Hawkmoth's ring.
Yeah, so
after he died.
She's still going to
so
be
we
part
know
of it.
she's going to be powerful now. She's going to be the powerful woman, female.
Here we
teenager.
go. It's like, here we
She's
go.
going to be bigger than Chloe. She's going to have master plans.
Oh
and you know what? We don't want to see Lila anymore.
We're done with Lila. Liar.
Unfortunately, we know season 6 right now is going to suck before it even gets to season 6 because of number 10.
Yep.
And last but not least, number 11.
The biggest thing of all, the twins, spoiler alert, the twins being separated at birth plot. We're not kidding. An overused, multiple tropes. And Mama knew long before season 5 even aired that this was going to come about.
Yep.
At the final episode, they revealed a twin separated trope.
And I just sat there and went, I told you. Because Disney keeps using tropes.
It's like,
He looked too much like Adrian to be a cousin. He sounded too much like Adrian to be a cousin. And I even told you that they were going to end up having the same mom, and that the mom he thought was the mom wasn't the mom.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, Disney just ran with it.
Yeah.
So they decided not to be creative anymore and to just go into these overused tropes they had used in other series.
Yeah,
and another thing that connects with number 11 is they began going back to other shows and other franchises they've acquired, and they began taking storylines and things from those shows and applying to Miraculous Ladybug. And that is the biggest disappointment of all for season 5, because prior to that, this was an original show. Yes, it was inspired by Sailor Moon. Mm-hmm. Yes, it was inspired by anime. Yes, it had inspiration from different things, but it had become its own thing. Yeah. And even curmudgeon-y people that, hate cutesy things, you couldn't help loving the show. You couldn't help loving Adrian and Marionette. You just couldn't help it. They were adorable. They were sweet. They were cute. And season 5, all that just got thrown out.
And every time you get your hopes up,
this became the worst season ever.
Yep, and every time you got your hopes up and you adored them actually being together for like 5 minutes, they kept tricking you because you adored it, and then they ripped it away from you. And it's like, you know what? I'm beginning to see why people liked the movie more, even though that was more of a if Disney made Miraculous from the beginning type film. Because they didn't drag out the ship more than an hour and a half. They said, screw it, put them together at the end because they're tired of seeing it. I understand it now.
And the movies didn't help either. We've covered some of those. You can check those out as well. It's over. And it could have been a long-running series. And it could have been something that kept getting better and better.
As it went on, yeah.
And making fans happy and happier. But alas, that's not going to happen. Thanks a lot, Disney, for screwing up something else that people love and ruining someone else's childhood.
Yeah.
So, do you agree with our thoughts? Do you have other things that you have found from season 5 that just ruin it for you? Let us know in the comments. If you've seen season 5, let us know what you think. If you haven't, don't waste your time. Just pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And live happily ever after.
Yeah. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and weekly videos for anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting us and subscribing. And please feel free to share this video. It helps out our channel a lot. And remember, as always, you are a special.
Thank you so much for watching Mascara Entertainment
and the Mom Entertainments.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.